Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Lyon's Air Museum. I'm Craig Foster, Chief Operating Officer of the Building Industry Association of Southern California, and I'm here with Bill Lyon, General Lyon's son, who we are commemorating today. We want you all to appreciate and understand just how much of an industry icon he was for the building industry, besides all the other amazing things that he did during his lifetime. Again, I appreciate you all coming today, and Bill and I will get right into it. So Bill, on a day in, day out basis, what inspiration do you draw most from your father?
He was just a, pleasure to be around, and one of those people that when they're in a room, everybody wants to hear what they're talking about. Even when he got very soft-spoken in his later years, didn't matter the ages of the people in the room, everybody was hanging on his word. And there's so many things I'm trying to think of what one would be, but just trying to make a positive difference, I think, in the community and in the world.
How did he get involved with the armed services and become a pilot?
So my dad wasn't the best student growing up, but he was very passionate about flying. He started pursuing his pilot's license. He got licensed at 16, graduated high school, enrolled in USC in the fall of 1941, and his plan was to try to get into the Navy as a pilot. Pearl Harbor happens in December, and went through this big medical screening, and at the end they found he had a deviated septum in his nose and failed him on the medical because of that. He decided, okay, well, God doesn't want me to be a Navy pilot, but I still want to fly, and I still want to, be part of the war effort. So he left USC, went to Dallas Aviation School, became a commercial pilot and instructor, and then came back to Los Angeles and found work pretty quickly training pilots for the war. And so he did that for a time, and ironically even trained some Navy cadets, which was ironic to him because they wouldn't let him in the Navy, but he could train their pilots. As the war progressed, the demand for pilots started to kind of wane. He saw an opportunity to enlist in the Air Force and was moving planes all over the world, which he loved because he got a ton of experience, flew all different types of aircraft. So after World War II, he stayed involved with the reserves and kept his flying up, and he had some civilian aviation jobs.
So transitioning from the airlines into home building, how did that occur for him?
Well, so he was a co-pilot at Frontier Airlines when the Korean War broke out, and he applied to go back on active duty with the Air Force, and ultimately wound up flying 75 combat missions in Korea, in actually planes similar to these right behind us. After returning from Korea in 1954, my dad joined his brother and his father working on a project they'd invested in, and then that kind of led to him starting up as a home builder in Orange County. I think maybe Anaheim or Fullerton was the first project, and he kind of did it one track at a time, mostly buying farmland, and just kind of grew it from there, starting in the 50s in Southern California, and then about 10 years later started up in Northern California.
So Bill, what do you think your father's greatest impact to the building industry was?
The homes that his companies built, we lost track, it got too convoluted after a while, but well over 100,000 that he was responsible for, and the number of families those have touched. I think what he would have wanted to impact the industry, which obviously is much bigger than just him and our company, but really changing the kind of fly-by-night mentality he dealt with as a customer, and standing behind the product and still being there year in and year out when people have issues. A couple of years ago, we got a package at the office, and it was from a family. The husband's parents lived in Huntington Beach, and the father had just passed away, and they were cleaning out this house. And they found the presentation keys that the company had given them in a silk-lined box, and they were like brass keys with Homes by William Lyon emblazoned on them. And this home had served their family for over 50 years. And even in the midst of everything else they were dealing with, they thought enough of their experience to send that back to us. And that really meant, the world to me, that my father had that big of an impact on, that one family, much less, many others. There's also, all the employees that worked for the companies over the years and were kind of part of the extended family, and subcontractor relationships. So I think, his memory and all those lives he touched, I think live on that way.
How did the Lyons Air Museum come to be?
So my father had been involved for a number of years with the British Air Museum at Duxford in England. He was the U.S. chairman for a while and, got exposed to the Imperial War Museum system over there, which is really incredible, and I think really was inspired by how they kind of keep the stories of World War II and all the sacrifices of that generation alive. And at the same time, he kind of had started collecting some planes that he had flown in his career. And my father felt strongly that all the planes are flyable. The B-25 over here flew in the air show just a couple weeks ago, and the C-47 kind of in the back or the green plane, that's been flying in air shows and different events the last few years around the county.
So Bill, what would you say the best piece of advice your father ever gave you was?
Well, I'll give you two. Obviously, he had a lot of wisdom, and I'm sure there's some in the audience tonight that heard these stories as well, so they'll sound familiar. One would be volunteer for everything, and he felt that was really important in business, and also it really helped him in the military. He got tons of experience that way. If you just do the minimum, people generally aren't going to give you more responsibility. If you're looking for more to take on and more to learn, you'll get more, and then you'll rise to the top. The other would be prolonged effort and persistence, and particularly when things are tough, just sticking with it, not necessarily beating your head against the wall, keep trying new things, but don't give up, because eventually things will shift, things will change, the clouds will part, and you'll get through it.